Let's roll through some Super Smash stuff. I'll chuck out some ideas hard and fast, and you can follow up afterwards with different things that perk your antenna. There is a really exciting group of young seamers on display, which doesn't include Christian Clark. Christian Clark was the best young seamer, to be honest, in Plunkett Shield and Ford Trophy. He hasn't been part of the Northern Brave rotation yet, so he hasn't even been playing Super Smash, to be honest. Matt Fisher has been playing Super Smash, but he's been lacking a bit of accuracy. He got tonked around yesterday versus Wellington. I think he's up over 10 runs and over, which is tough for Matt Fisher, but I think he is that type of bowler who can, he's going for 12.7 RPO this season. So it is a bit tricky for him, just because I think he bowls a nice pace and it's a bit slippery, but it's good to smash around, especially if it's a bit wider. Like, his accuracy's been a bit down, but he's a good bowler. You've got Will Clark, Central District's all-rounder, one of the best young cricketers in Aotearoa right now, but he's a bit more dibbler-dobblery. So he's a bit more Con de Gronholm, but he is effective. And I want to highlight Will Clark because I think he's someone who operates more around 120 Ks an hour, but he is effective. He's effective in Ford Trophy. He's effective in Super Smash, and I think he's going to play a role for Central as an all-rounder. He is still behind Josh Clarkson. Like, Josh Clarkson is bowling more than Will Clark. Josh Clarkson gets a lovely outswing. But I do want to highlight Will Clark because he is a fantastic cricketer who I think can play a role for Central with the ball in Super Smash. And another player like Will Clark is Zach Folks. Talked a lot about Zach Folks. I do love the Super Smash coverage because you learn so much about these domestic cricketers. And Zach Folks was on the mic and he was saying he kind of loves to bat. And I'm like, bro, you're one of the best bowlers in Aotearoa, one of the best young bowlers, but you love to bat. And I think that's the same with Will Clark. Will Clark and Zach Folks are genuine all-rounders who are very good batters who also bowl. And if Zach Folks is serving up his full quiver of skills, which is a bit of heat, Yorkers, swing bowling, slower balls, all these players have really good change-ups, really good slower balls. If Zach Folks is doing all that and he loves to bat, that's pretty good. Like, that's pretty good. Like, you're really good at bowling, but it's kind of your second thing. That's really cool. Then we've got this kind of young pace thing, but I want to chuck in Jacob Duffy. Jacob Duffy is not necessarily young, but we have learned about Jacob Duffy running on his toes now and hitting that 140 kilometers per hour. He was a bit expensive. He went for 11 runs and over in his appearance for Otago, returning from Blackcaps duty. So it's not necessarily about Jacob Duffy, but we also saw Ben Sears hitting 150 Ks an hour, and there was a bit of buzz about Will O'Rourke hitting 140 Ks. I said in our last podcast, I think that Will O'Rourke he was operating more early 130s in the ODIs against Bangladesh, but then I saw him bowl in New Plymouth against Central, and he was getting the ball through. And I think he can hit 140s. I think he's going to be 135 to 140K consistently. So you've kind of got Will O'Rourke, Jacob Duffy giving 140 a nudge, and then you've got Ben Sears giving 150 a nudge. We know that Matt Fisher bowls quick. Christian Clark bowls quick enough. I've seen Zach Folks bounce batters out, which might be thanks to his action, but it might also be the fact that he's bowling pretty quickly. There's some quick bowlers around. You know, this isn't military medium Aotearoa seam bowling. This is dudes who are going above that 140K consistently. And then you've got Nathan Smith, who I think is the best domestic bowler this summer across every format. He is a fantastic athlete, and he does tickle batters up with his bouncer. So I think he might be 135 to 140 as well. But he moves the ball. Another thing I learned when it might have been Tim Robinson who was on the mic, and he was saying, if anyone's going to swing it, it's going to be Smudge, and Smudge being Nathan Smith. So that tells me that his Wellington teammates know that Nathan Smith is going to move the ball when other bowlers aren't. And he got Kartini Clark LBW in at Bay Oval, and that one nipped back into Kartini Clark's pads. And this comes after Nathan Smith has had a fantastic season bowling glorious outswing. So I think Nathan Smith is the best domestic bowler right now, which is quite cool because Ben Sears has got Blackcaps buzz, Will O'Rourke has got Blackcaps buzz, and there's a lot of other good bowlers. But Nathan Smith is the main man, and he's joined by Tim Robinson, opening batter for Wellington, who is smashing it. He is just smashing it ridiculously. Like, it's not, he's taking the piss. It's so effortless. It's kind of disgusting, to be honest. He's got a strike rate of 207 with 189 runs. Obviously, that's bolstered by a century. Which batter in Super Smash has scored 250 so far? Trivia.
I don't think it's Doug Bracewell, but it would be cool if it was because he had that one outrageous
Yeah, hold on.
I think, yeah, I'm sure you got some Doug Bracewell stuff. Cheat Ravel's been chipping away towards the top of the runs, hey?
Don't know.
I don't know. I was just looking at the thing before. I remembered seeing his name there. So I guess it's not him who's got 250s. Who was it then?
It's Jeet Ravel. He's the man. He's got 250s and he's got 250s with a strike rate of 151.
Yo.
Jeet Ravel is doing fantastic stuff for Northern Brave in the Super Smash. Tim Robinson, he's whacking it up top. You mentioned Doug Bracewell. He's got the highest strike rate of the best batters so far. Tim Robinson's 208 strike rate. Doug Bracewell is 231. Doug Bracewell also has a T20 average. I think it's 29. And if you got a T20 average of 29 with the bat, you're a legend. There's not many players who are hitting that 30 mark in the Super Smash, and like, he's got a higher batting average than Dane Cleaver. He's got a higher batting average than Rachin Ravindra. Rachin Ravindra is not even over 20. There's a lot of batters who you think should have higher batting averages than Doug Bracewell. But Doug Bracewell has a higher batting average than most of your favorite T20 batters. And he's also come back into bowling. He had a good spell for Central in New Plymouth. Wellington Firebirds, they're the hottest team, I reckon. They're fantastic. You've got Tim Robinson, you've got Nathan Smith. You've also got Tom Blundell coming back yesterday with runs. Michael Bracewell was part of the squad. He's emerging. And Rachin Ravindra will be a fascinating bloke to watch out for in the Super Smash, because he doesn't have a great Super Smash record, but he does have that international IPL and Blackcaps buzz. So it'll be interesting to see how he contributes to a Wellington team that is already firing on all cylinders. You had some, like, the young player knocks I'm interested in are the 20s and the 30s with good strike rates. So Otago had it with Ollie White, with Lou Johnson, and Wellington had it with Muhammad Abbas, Cullen McLaughlin. Like, those are the knocks that I'm looking for in young players. Like, not everyone's going to be Tim Robinson smashing it around, but there are opportunities for young batters to score 20 runs off 15 balls, 25 runs off 20 balls, and so on. And we are seeing those knocks contribute to winning. Women's Super Smash, Bates and Amelia Kerr dominating, but you've also got Georgia Plymouth scoring some runs for Wellington. She's in good form, which is good to see, considering she hasn't really taken her potential into the White Ferns production. I want to highlight Michaela Gregg as I reckon she is the best domestic batter. At the moment, she is the only player with a strike rate over 100 in both competitions, Super Smash and HBJ Shield. I think she's the leading run scorer in HBJ Shield, and she's played a few more chiming in type of knocks for Central in the Super Smash with a good strike rate. Let me confirm that strike rate quickly. Michaela Gregg, She hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities, but she's got a strike rate of 117, which is really good in that central lineup. I still think Jess McFadden is the best wicketkeeper for the women in Super Smash. She is far superior to Izzy Gaze. I think she's also got an advantage over Natalie Dodd. Natalie Dodd had a few mishaps in the game that I saw as well, whereas Jess McFadden's really sharp and a decent batter. One team, so the Wellington Firebirds are a really good Super Smash men's team to watch out for. Otago Sparks are the team on the women's side to watch out for. Susie Bates is dominating, but there's veteran batters around her. Olivia Gain, Caitlin Blakely, Bella James, Felicity Robinson's a really good senior veteran in that Otago team. And if the White Ferns had Frances Mackay, Lee Kasperick, Felicity Robinson, and Jess McFadden, I think the White Ferns are winning a lot more games. Also got Polly Ingalls as their wicketkeeper. She is emerging as a good all-round cricketer. But all those players, you assume they're younger, but Blakely, James, Robertson, and Ingalls are a bit older, bit more mature, far more able to contribute consistently around Bates. But then you got the Otago bowling attack, which is super young and super exciting. Emma Black, Eden Carson, PJ Watkins, the big lefty from England. She's taken a lot of wickets in Super Smash. Molly Lowe played her first game. She took 4 wickets. And Sophie Oldershaw was in the rotation. She dropped out of the rotation for their overseas pro Lindsay Smith, who hasn't been as effective. It's a really fun team, that Otago Sparks team, especially when you've got PJ Watkins adding some spice, Carson's fantastic, and Molly Lowe back in the mix. After the Blackcaps versus Bangladesh T20 series, we've just had the T20 squad to face Pakistan announced while we were recording. So I'll run through that quickly. Williamson, Allen, Chapman, Clarkson, Conway, Ferguson, Henry, Milne, Mitchell, Phillips, Santner, Sears, Seifert, Sodhi, Southey. We have Williamson is not playing the third game, so Clarkson replaces Williamson. Ferguson's playing the last 3 games after Ben Sears plays the first 2 games. So who cares about the nitty gritty? It's basically Clarkson coming in for Williamson and Ferguson coming in for Sears, which kind of maps out some of the depth. Obviously, we did have that series against Bangladesh, and a good place to start is probably up the top of the order, where Finn Allen had a tough series against Shariful Islam, and I thought Tim Seifert was pretty impressive. And when I was running this through the stats for the 2023 Blackcaps, ODI, and T20 stuff that we did share through Patreon and Substack, Seifert's played a lot of cricket. He's played a lot of T20 cricket this year and in recent years, and I think he is the best T20 wicketkeeper batter for the Blackcaps heading into that T20 World Cup. And I think he needs to open. So I think he's locked in there. And Allen, not only did he have a tough series as far as not scoring runs, when he did score runs, it looked incredibly clunky and a bit awkward, summed up by the run it straight into Mark Chapman, which was so awkward that it wasn't run it straight because Finn Allen literally ran in a circle to collide with Mark Chapman. He did not run straight. He ran in a circle to collide with Mark Chapman. And that kind of summed up the whole Allen experience in that third T20. And that is more funky when you do have Williamson in the equation. Devon Conway's back in the squad, so he's in the equation. Those guys are top 3 batters. So I think you can go, like, they have listed Devon Conway as a wicketkeeper in this squad to face Pakistan, but I think you can go Seifert, Williamson, Conway, Seifert, Conway, Williamson, and that doesn't leave a lot of space for Finn Allen. And I was thinking we do have this idea, like, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but we do have this idea about young players and older players. Finn Allen came into the Blackcaps. He earned, again, IPL buzz is irrational, and he earned that buzz through a couple of hot seasons in the Super Smash. It's not like Finn Allen has had to grind through 5 seasons and figure out everything in domestic cricket. So now that I think Finn Allen's kind of at this point where he may have been figured out, it's not surprising considering his promotion came through a couple of hot seasons for Wellington. Whereas you compare him to the other batters who have been successful, Conway's had a wee bit of a slump, but Conway had to figure out his batting across 2 different countries in like 10 years. Daryl Mitchell had to play 10 years of domestic cricket to figure out his batting and what works for him. Finn Allen is the opposite. Tom Blundell, he had to grind away for 5-10 years in domestic cricket to figure out a way that worked for him. The bloke who's different here is Finn Allen, and he's also the dude who has come back down to earth after flashing his really aggressive, hyper-aggressive slugging up the top of the order. And even comparing to Seifert, Seifert had a quick promotion into the Blackcaps, but he's been in and out. He's been up and down, and I think we're coming into a version of Tim Seifert that may be the best version of him. All of this is like a natural flow of young players moving up into higher levels of sport. And I think this is a bit of a tough patch for Finn Allen, so I'm curious how he responds. But what have you made of the Finn Allen experience and how that top order for the Blackcaps and T20s looks?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to gauge it based on what we've been seeing from them a little bit more recently, because they came off a period where there were 2 2020 World Cups in a short space of time, like back-to-back years. One was delayed for the pandemic, and so there was sort of like a big focus on that. And then last year, there wasn't anything like that. And if you want to know why, do you want proof that they didn't take T20s as seriously in 2023? Well, Kane Williamson didn't play one. He didn't play a single T20 in that year. And he was out with a knee injury for a while there, but he wasn't out with a knee injury during the New Zealand home summer when they always play a lot of T20s. He just didn't play. Now he's back in these squads, and they're making room for him in these squads by being like, okay, your knee's a little bit sore, like you're not playing the third game, I think they said, which I think is five T20 series. So I guess he's playing 2, having a rest and playing 2, or
yeah, but it's they were in ODI mode. He was in ODI mode. Now they're in T20 mode. Like that's the cycle of Blackcaps cricket.
Yeah, but the point of that is he wouldn't be playing the series at all last year. Now he is, because they are in T20 mode. Yeah. And so we are seeing them picking some strong squads. Like you look, they blooded a few guys in the ODI squads, but the T20 series was pretty serious. Like they rested a lot of guys actually for the ODI thing against Bangladesh, because they rested guys who've been playing a lot of ODI cricket from the World Cup. So we'll find out how that looks. I guess over the next few series, and we got a decent start of it in the last one, albeit without Williamson there. So it is an interesting time, because when is that World Cup? I think it might be. I don't
know, but what did you think? It's
in
the
Allen? West Indies. I think it might be a sort of mid-year thing. Which brings us to Finn Allen, because I think it is what we need to find out is where Seifert sits, and when we find out where Seifert sits, we find out where Finn Allen sits. Because I agree, I don't think there's room for both of them in a first choice 11. And Devon Conway has done a decent enough job with the gloves in T20s, like semi recently. That's all right. Like that's an option. Seifert's not an amazing wicketkeeper, but he's a specialist wicketkeeper, and so he's going to be better than Conway, even if he's not going to be as good as, say, a Blundell or someone like that. But he is a better T20 batter. Well, actually, I don't know if that's for certain, but he is the guy who's in the spot, and he's the point I like that you made there is how he sort of had a chance, didn't quite make it stick. Although he's played a fair few T20 internationals. It's not like he was in for a couple series and out. He had a couple years in there as playing first choice type stuff. But then he did also have some time out of the team, and it does really feel like he has come back as a better cricketer than what he was when he was last a regular. And Finn Allen feels like he's on a little bit of the downswing, which is not the downswing of his career. It's just like you started really well. Now guys have figured out plans of how to bowl to you, and your job now is to respond to that. Which is what Seifert has done coming back. It's what Allen needs to do and hasn't really had an opportunity to do yet. That puts him in a frisky spot because he lost a spot ahead of the ODI World Cup as well. They tried him. They gave him a chance to be the new Martin Guptill / more aggressively, and that didn't stick. Now he's under a little bit of got a bit of wobbliness with his T20 spot, which is the one format where he really has commanded selection. And it is worth repeating again that like Finn Allen has started to get some more decent Ford Trophy type knocks, but even when he does well in Ford Trophy, it's when he's batting like it's a T20, and he still isn't really a guy who does much of anything in the Plunkett Shield stuff. So he is shaping as a bit of a T20 specialist. He kind of needs this one to hang around. But yeah, I think that's information we'll get a lot more. I think that's a situation we'll get a lot more information on soon. I would still lean him ahead of Seifert. Allen and Conway opening and Williamson at 3. But I do admit that's looking a little bit precarious if he although to be fair, he doesn't have to play Sharaful in every series, so maybe that helps.
Just Shaheen
just a 1-on-1. Yeah, just Shaheen Shah Afridi is a better version of that same left arm bowler. Yeah.
I've seen it mentioned a few different ways, like the Allen and Guptill and Allen. They are completely different batters. Guptill is a pure class batter. Allen is a slugger. Guptill was never a slugger. He smashed boundaries as he was getting into his innings, and he played Test cricket at some point. And he was really good. He
played a fair bit of it, yeah.
He was really good batting in ODIs, batting in T20Is. Finn Allen is a slugger. And I think he's a pretty good slugger. I don't know if that is good enough to play consistently in international cricket. I think the thing about all the T20 leagues is you're not coming up across international bowling attacks. Like, for all the buzz about T20 league cricket, it's one thing to score runs in T20 leagues. It's a different thing to score runs against Australia. If they're rolling out Pat Cummins, Stark and Hazelwood and Zampa, like, that's a different beast. And I think it's harder to be a really good slugger in T20 international cricket than it is the T20 leagues. There's also this Ben Sears buzz. So he's joining Ferguson, Henry, Milne. Milne's pretty good at bowling in T20s last year, Southey as well in the same department. What have you made of the rise of Ben Sears over the past few weeks? Like, I don't think he played any cricket for the Blackcaps in 2023 prior to that Bangladesh series. But he came in, he was bowling quick. And the thing about Sears, he's got really good control of his change-ups, which when you're bowling 150 Ks and you've got good slower balls, you're going to be pretty effective because he's got a wild action. And if a slower delivery is coming out of that wild action, you're going to fool a lot of batters.
Yeah, and he is he's a dude who gets sort of sporadic Blackcaps opportunities, but they are in a weird way like consistently sporadic or regularly sporadic. Like he's not a he's sticking around with that because other guys have gotten development opportunities, and it's like a series here opportunistically, and then maybe that's kind of it for a year or whatever. Like Sears pops up whenever they go into that kind of mode. He's popping up, and here is a chance to play with more or less the top choice team for a couple of games till Ferguson comes back in, which kind of says that he's the next guy up, or at least in contention to be the next guy up. It's a nice little development arc that he's coming through as a fast bowler who's probably a bit older than people think he is. You know, he's not 19 or 20 or anything like that, but he is younger on the international scene from where so is Finn Allen, by the way, like probably about the same age, wouldn't they both be about 24, 25? Um, it's just been it's a nice arc from Ben Sears, and he does seem to be like adding to his toolkit along the way and getting a little bit more comfortable and showing things beyond just the raw pace kind of thing. But it's a nice little spot for the Blackcaps to be in, I think, where we are starting to see a few of these younger seamers as well. Because like I was pretty impressed with how Will O'Rourke bowled in the ODIs as well. I thought in particular, more than anything else, his death bowling. Big weakness, I think, for the Blackcaps for quite a few years has been death bowling. And here's a dude who looked like he just like would thrive upon and not only would thrive upon it like mentally, but also just had the ability as a cricketer to bowl the 50th over of an innings when the other team's trying to slug you out and just attack the stumps, hit good Yorkers, take wickets, change up the pace, and kind of he really, in fact, I think he bowled a lot better in the death than he did at the start, like sort of his first spell in most of those in those couple of games that he got. So here's another example of a younger bowler who's got something extra. Like I think all the Blackcaps kind of have that at this point, isn't it? It's something that selectors are quite good at identifying. It's like players aren't just a bit of this, a bit of that. It's like everyone has some form of kind of X factor about them. With Sears, obviously, it's his pace. To start with, obviously, you can't stick alone on the pace. You need to add to that. You need to have other stuff around that, and he's starting to show that. But the guys who are getting into the Blackcaps do seem to have something like that, don't they? Like just a little something that sets them apart.
That's what I've been saying about all the young seamers, though. Every young seamer has something about them. Whether it's Henley Shipley, his quirky action, Zach Folks is bowling hooping in-swingers to right-handers with good change-ups, decent pace. Matt Fisher's slippery. Christian Clark, like, just nibbles it around. And you've got Nathan Smith, you were saying about Will O'Rourke. Nathan Smith also is doing really good death bowling stuff in the Super Smash as well. I was going to ask you, like, what are you looking for when you talking death bowling? Because you do have a love for the art of death bowling. Are you and then you kind of laid it out. Like, what are specific things you look for in death bowling that make you think a lad is good at death bowling, as opposed to what frustrates you about bad death bowling?
I think there's many ways to skin a cat, right? And ultimately, what you're just looking at is who has the best stats. Did you go for a lot of runs? No. Can you do that consistently? Yes. Okay, sweet as. There's a good death bowler. But I think with O'Rourke specifically, yeah, like he didn't just he restricted runs, but he restricted ones by taking wickets, and those I think he padded out his numbers quite nicely in his like last couple overs in those games. Where I think that's I don't know. There's no better way to keep the run rate down than taking wickets, is there? And he seemed like someone who would just bowl quick and full and on the stumps, and if you miss, I hit kind of stuff, and with variations. But obviously, I'd need to see a lot more of them to get a better idea. But for starters, for an introduction, that's a good place to be, you know?
Yeah, but what are you looking for? Are you looking for Yorker execution? Are you looking for the wide Yorker execution? Bounces, slower balls? Like, what are the things that make up death bowling? Like, if a bowler's doing these things, you're like, oh, I got to tap into this guy.
Well, I don't know. I think I just answered that, didn't I?
Well, you're a bit specific to Will O'Rourke. I'm looking for
yeah, I suppose so.
Because me, like for me, it's the wide Yorker. Because there's so many bowlers who want to bowl a wide Yorker and they bowl wides.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're trying to do the thing, but you're not doing the thing. Or if you're trying to bowl Yorkers and suddenly you're bowling knee-high full tosses that get hoiked to the leg side. So if I'm watching a death bowl, I'm thinking, like, obviously you need a slower ball, but can you actually accurately bowl what you want to bowl? Nathan Smith in the Super Smash, he is bowling what he wants to bowl. If he wants to bowl a wide Yorker, he's doing that kind of 3 to 4 times out of 5. yes, there might be one where it's just like on the line, the umpire's, you know, up to his own thing, he calls it a wide, unlucky. But the dudes that I'm watching for, can you actually accurately deliver what you want to do? Because then, as they were saying yesterday, when like Northern Brave weren't really scoring runs off Wellington, I was like, well, then you've got to try and hit the good balls to the boundary. And that's a lot harder to do than hitting bad balls to the boundary. And it's no knock on Nikith Pereira, who was the lefty spinner bowling for Auckland in the Super Smash. But when he was bowling against Otago, it always felt like there was going to be a hittable delivery in the over. And he was like, he's a young spinner, so I don't expect anything different from him. But he was also asked to bowl the final over. And at that point, you're like, well, he's going to deliver some deliveries that are going to be hit to the boundary because they're bad balls. Whereas the best death bowlers, you know that they can accurately deliver good balls. But it's not like, okay, we need 6 Yorkers, because the batter then knows you're trying to bowl Yorkers. They're going to scoop you through fine leg. So it's like, can you execute a Yorker? Okay, this time we're going to go wide Yorker. Okay, this time we're going to go slower ball bouncer. And it's like, whoa, in the over, there's 5 different variations there, 5 different zones you're trying to target. Can you actually do them all accurately? And I can't really remember, obviously from Aotearoa, what Will O'Rourke was doing in the death overs, but I'd imagine he might be hard to hit if he's bowling decent pace at the stumps. In like this level of cricket, obviously if he goes to Australia, they're going to be spanking him to mid-wicket, but he'll learn and grow. But is there like one thing you're looking for a good death bowler to do? For me, it's the wide Yorker.
Yeah, I do love a good wide Yorker. I think it just differs from bowler to bowler of where their strengths lay and what they're trying to do. But well, that depends on what bowler I'm watching. You know, I don't need a spinner to come and bowl in wide Yorkers, for example. Although I think Mitchell Santner would be. Mitchell Santner actually is really good at sneaking that ball in just inside the wide line. But yeah, it seems like in a simplified way, when it gets to that stage, you need bouncers that are accurate. You need Yorkers that are accurate on at least 2 different lines. You want that wide one, you want the one on the stumps. If you can have a good slower ball, that helps. Like there's not a lot of deliveries you need, but I think your point is the key one there is you just have to be accurate ball after ball. Because the bad one, there's nothing to lose. The bad one's going to the fence, probably over the fence. And just being able to, pick a spot, hit a spot. Do that, you're probably going to be a pretty good death bowler because you've likely, at an international level, you've already got the skills to get to that point. If you can do it, so you know they're capable of bowling a decent enough speed and that kind of thing. Just consistency of accuracy is probably the thing to look for. It's not so much the one ball, it's can you do what you're trying to do without the loose one.
I think that's where Adam Milne is quite an interesting lad to watch out for, because we talked about Ben Sears, especially with Lockie Ferguson. Lockie Ferguson didn't have a great 2023. He had a few good games at the World Cup, but they were outliers amongst pretty mediocre T20 stuff and ODI stuff last year. Ben Sears is the next up dude behind Ferguson, as you said, and as the squad lays out. But Milne is the dude who's playing T20 cricket. And I think what we're talking about, Milne does it all.
Yeah.
Bowls pretty quick. He's accurate. He's got good change-ups. He's aggressive. Attacks the stumps. He can attack the body. He can lay it out wide if he needs to as well. He's reliable. He's trustworthy. He does the job. Adam Milne, I think this is less about Adam Milne, less about Ben Sears. It's more about Lockie Ferguson and whether Lockie Ferguson can really solidify himself in the first 11, which wraps this up nicely. Can Finn Allen hold his spot consistently in the first 11? Can Lockie Ferguson stay in the first 11?